In this video, we're going to be talking about who got some of the biggest gains from the upcoming second mastery and who got some of the least gains from the upcoming second mastery on July 17th, coming out in just a couple weeks from now. If you don't know what a mastery is, basically when you hit 6th job, you have different types of skills that you can upgrade. Some of them being your 5th job skills, some of them being your 4th job skills, and some being completely brand new skills that are from 6th job. And your mastery skills are the skills that upgrade your 4th job skills. So it's the skills that are on the top right of the hexamatrix. And we're getting a new one on July 17th, which will increase the power quite a bit for some classes and will increase the power not so much on some other classes. I also want to make it clear that this video is not talking about what's really good in the endgame meta right now. It's just to highlight what classes got some pretty good gains from their second mastery and what classes didn't get that much stronger from their second mastery. Some of these classes, even if they got a big gain from the second mastery, doesn't mean they're ideal in the endgame meta, and some of them, even if they didn't get a big gain from their second mastery, they're still pretty strong in the meta. With that all being said, of course, I want to always remind you guys that at the end of the day, play what you might enjoy, play what you think looks cool, because meta always changes and you don't want to be on something that you don't actually enjoy and regret it down the line. With that all being said, let's begin. The first class I want to talk about that got really good gains from its upcoming second mastery core is Shadower. Shadower's second mastery core is Meso Explosion, and if you know anything about Shadower, Meso Explosion is a key that you're using all the time, so it's really good that it's getting boosted from the second mastery. The second mastery for Shadower increases its overall DPS quite a bit and moves a lot of the damage that the origin skill lost to the mastery, which means that Shadower is a much more DPS oriented class rather than a big burst class. So as you're progressing through the game and you encounter bosses that can benefit a lot from having really high DPS, like Black Mage for example, Shadower would be able to do quite a lot of damage in that boss. But because Meso Explosion is a much more DPS oriented skill, Shadower's performance in bosses that have really high burst walls, such as Kalos or Phase 2 Culling, would not be as ideal. Shadower's second mastery core Meso Explosion adds about 19% final damage to Shadower's DPS. So although it did lose quite a bit from their origin recently getting nerfed, the Meso Explosion does add quite a bit of damage back when we're talking about a full DPS setting. In a burst setting, it's not as much, but the Meso Explosion definitely does help a lot for Shadower. Because Meso Explosion is the second half to Shadower's DPS, it makes it even more important to properly weave as well to get as much damage as possible through your Meso Explosion. Meso Explosion also helps Shadower's mobbing quite a bit. Granted, we are getting Soul Genesis patch, which makes mobbing way easier, but it definitely doesn't hurt from getting the Meso Explosion bonus damage as well. The next class that I want to talk about that's getting pretty good gains from their second mastery is Lara. Lara is getting their Dragon Vein Eruption boosted with the upcoming second mastery. Basically what that means is their summons, the big water one, the big wind one, and the big fire one, are all getting quite a bit stronger. Now if you know Lara, you are constantly replacing your summons and making sure that your summons are up for as long as possible. So having the summons be boosted is actually huge. And another thing that's very interesting about Lara is because the summons are something you just put down and they do damage for you, you can actually get a lot of value from the damage of the summon. So having something that comes out and just does the work for you getting boosted is very strong for the class. Lara's second mastery is about 13 to 14% final damage increase for the class's DPS. Similar to Shadower though, Lara's burst isn't that crazy, so this mastery helps more on the DPS side of things. So bosses that require a very high burst threshold to reach, Lara's second mastery isn't going to help them too much with that, but it definitely does help with their DPS quite a bit. And on top of that, because you're using your mastery for mobbing all the time, Lara already has very lazy and super strong mobbing. It's just going to be even better after that because of their second mastery. They even made Surging Essence, one of their other DPS skills, slightly stronger as well, so they're leaning more into the DPS side of things on Lara. I wish they got their burst buffed a massive amount as well, but they're definitely eating with this second mastery because the summons are a big part of their damage. Another class that's eating quite a bit this patch is Mercedes. Mercedes' second mastery is boosting their Leap Tornado, Spikes Royale, and Wrath of Enlil. A class like Mercedes that has a bunch of combo skills, getting 3 skills boosted at once. And not only that, those 3 skills are a big part of their combo damaging skills, is huge for the class. Mercedes is getting about a 14% final damage increase because of this mastery change that's coming up. And unlike Lara and Shadower, Mercedes' burst, albeit most of it is part of Kala's Wrath, it actually does help their burst as well to get these skills boosted, because even during their burst they're comboing quite a bit. So Mercedes is actually getting quite a bit stronger in this upcoming patch, not only for the end game bossing setting but just in general as well. It's to the point where Mercedes are going to have to start comboing pretty much all the time now. There is a case nowadays, before this patch came out, that Mercedes could just not combo after their spirits are down, but because of this mastery coming up and how important it is for these skills being boosted, they're going to have to be comboing much more now. Spikes Royale, Leap Tornado, and Wrath of Enlil are some of their stronger skills in the combo as well, so they're eating a lot from this patch. And in terms of mobbing, of course it helps their mobbing as well, especially Leap Tornado, which you use constantly while moving around the map, which is actually so huge for them. Mercedes is definitely set up to be one of the strongest classes in the entire game after this patch. And again, for a class that is reliant on combos and has so many skills, it's so good that they're getting 3 of their skills boosted all at once. Now let's talk about some classes that are not getting some big gains from their second mastery. First one that I want to talk about is Marksman. Marksman is getting their piercing shot skill boosted with their second mastery, and if you don't know what that is, that's basically their mobbing skill. So in terms of their raw damage output, it's really not that much. The thing about the Marksman second mastery though is it does boost their snipes damage as well. So although it is a second mastery for their mobbing skill, it does slightly increase their main bossing skill snipes damage as well. So it's not completely all just 0 gains on the second mastery. Nexon did think about it and wanted to increase their main skill snipes damage as well, but in all honesty, it's like 4 to 5% final damage, so it's really not that much at all, and marksmans are left desiring much more from their second mastery. It does obviously help with their mobbing, piercing shot being stronger, but their piercing skill was already really strong for mobbing, so it doesn't really matter too much, to be honest. This also doesn't really help their burst that much because snipe is just a constant DPS skill and not like a big burst skill like their cartridges, for example. The next class that isn't getting too much from their second mastery is Kinesis. Kinesis is getting their psychic grab boosted with their second mastery, and for Kinesis this is pretty much useless. They are getting a measly about 2% final damage increase from this mastery, which is one of the lowest in the entire game, maybe the absolute lowest actually. So the reason why psychic grab isn't so good for their second mastery is because it doesn't really do anything for their bosses. At most, all you really want to use it for is to regen your PP if all of your other PP restoration skills are on cooldown, which really doesn't do much at all. So honestly, if I was a Kinesis player, I would just think to myself, hey, at least I don't have to use as many frags on my second mastery, and I could save myself from maxing it, and I could just put my frags into Soul Janus or something instead and pray for the third mastery. Now, I guess it's fine for mobbing, but Kinesis already hits so hard in mobbing, so it doesn't really matter too much in my opinion. And when it comes to bursting, this doesn't really do anything. DPS doesn't really do much either. So honestly, Kinesis is just waiting for Nexon to send them a miracle. And the final class that I want to talk about that isn't getting too much from their second mastery is a class that is very dear and close to my heart, which is Hayato. Now, to be fair, Hayato's second mastery, because this class is not originated from Korea, we don't know 100% everything about it, but we do have a pretty good amount of information in regards to it, and we can make educated guesses on how it would perform. Hayato's second mastery is a skill called Shinsoku. Now, this skill not only does get a lot stronger, but the skill itself also functions differently as well now. Currently, how Shinsoku works is it is a skill that you just press, has a cooldown, and does a little bit of burst damage, and that's it. But it's being changed to a charge-based system. Think similar to Blaze Wizard's Inferno Sphere or Bishop's Divine Punishment. So currently, before this second mastery comes out, Hayato can use cooldown skip to skip the Shinsoku cooldown and keep using it over and over again, which makes it pretty decent, especially for burst. But because Shinsoku is being changed to a charge-based system, it is very likely that it will not be cooldown skippable. Right now, Hayato's also wear a cooldown hat to reduce the cooldown on Shinsoku, and it makes it a skill that you can use very often during bosses. But again, because the skill is being changed to a charge-based system, cooldown hat probably won't work on it anymore, so it changes the way the skill is used entirely. The hitbox does get a lot bigger on it, which is good, but because it's a charge-based system, you can't really skip it or anything like that. So in fact, it does almost the exact same amount of damage compared to somebody who skips it and has a cooldown hat after the second mastery versus now, which means that it's barely any increase in damage, almost nothing. Now, the only good use case for this new Shinsoku mastery is during your burst, specifically your origin burst, because the Hayato origin burst, you have a 10-second window where you are super juiced up on final damage, and being able to use 3 Shinsokus in that small window versus just 1 like normal is a decent increase to your burst, but it's really not that much. If I were to give an estimate, Hayato's Shinsoku is probably around like 1 final damage increase after the patch, which is basically nothing. The only cope that we can still hope for is that Shinsoku has a passive that increases Blade flash damage as well, or it increases Akatsuki trace damage, just like how the 4th job skill does as well. But other than that, to be honest, Hayato's second mastery isn't really that good in my opinion, unless something changes. But Hayato is still strong in general, so it's not too big of a deal. With that all being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Obviously, I did not cover every single class. There are other classes like Dark Knight, Zero, or Xenon that got a lot stronger from their second mastery as well, and other classes that didn't get too much like Mihail or Battle Mage. But I just wanted to highlight these few classes just so you guys know what a second mastery is and which ones are eating and which ones aren't eating as much. But all in all, if you enjoyed this video, maybe consider subscribing or sharing it with somebody. I have a lot of guides on my YouTube channel as well if you want to watch them too. And if you want to watch me play MapleStory almost every single day, you can pull up to my stream and hang out. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day. Thank you so much to my beautiful members, Blazefire, Shooms, Uju, Shagad, Ravi Espa, Grim4K, Koga, Pabo, Picolneer, Jesse, Dante Victory, Zats, and CK. I appreciate you guys so much.